You don't have to be royalty to feel like a princess or a queen and arrive in style on your big wedding day. Here to show us around a seasonal wedding is Kansas City's wedding guru, Michael Nolte. So, Michael, we need your expert opinion. You just watched a royal wedding.
Sure.
What were your takeaways?
Well, the parts that I really loved about it were, I thought the tiara was out of this world. Those huge emeralds in it. I mean, that center was 97 carats. I mean, who would want to have a 97 carat emerald for their tiara? I thought that was great. Loved the fabric of the gown, that thick brocade and jacquard. Thought that was beautiful. I loved all the music. I couldn't believe that they had music like Ave Maria, Lord's Prayer, a ton kind of traditional songs. I thought the whole ceremony seemed very warm and intimate.
And she looks so graceful there.
Absolutely. The perfect dress for her body type. I mean, she has slim waist but sort of wide hips, and that skirt just skimmed over the hips just perfectly. Beautiful.
Okay, and that all starts with the arrival, and any woman probably wants to arrive in style. How do you recommend doing that?
I always say to stage a royal arrival is every bride's right to do. And I think the key thing is that they need to just remember to have all the clutter out of the vestibule, have all the guests seated, tell the guest book girls to go sit down, arrive in a limo riding just with your father. Don't be on a trolley bus and having, I'm not a big fan of the first look during the afternoon. Keeping the dress a complete secret is another key piece of this. Everybody wondered, what did the royal wedding dress look like? Well, I think they should wonder what your dress looks like as well. And then when you arrive just 10 minutes before the ceremony, that's the first time they see the gown, is when you and your father get out of the limousine.
Okay, and that's really going to have that special wow factor. Maybe we're looking at some photos of that happening here in Kansas City as well.
It's sort of a signature Nolte's effect whenever I'm coordinating a wedding, but it's a challenge for a wedding planner because you have to time it with the chauffeurs when you're on the phone with them, you have to time it with the church, get the guests seated, get the music started, and then you have the bride and the bridesmaids getting out of limos at the same time. They don't really even pause to line up long in the vestibule. They just walk straight down the aisle, just like they do at royal weddings. It's a cool effect.
Okay, now we were looking at photos a little bit earlier. You showing them to me off camera about how a church can look different seasonally.
Right. Well, and what we saw, at St. George's Church at Windsor Castle was we had a May wedding that was all done in white flowers for Harry, and then they switched it over to the autumn colors for Eugenia, and I thought they did a beautiful job. The church that we just saw there online is online or on camera is a local church in which I decorated once for the holidays, for Christmas, and then for Easter. It is two totally different looks in the very same church. So a blank canvas could be a beautiful backdrop for flowers and decor. Another cool thing that's happening is the use of potted trees down the aisle. When Prince William was married at Westminster Abbey, the aisle was lined with potted green trees, and then they did the same thing, potted trees outside at Princess Eugenia's wedding as well. And so I think bringing in potted live plants is kind of a unique and interesting way to do it.
That is, and I haven't seen too much of that in Kansas City, but is that something you recommend just here seasonally as we enter into these fall and winter months, or do you like it anytime?
I like it anytime, but it's really neat, and most of the landscape places in Kansas City will loan out, or not loan out, but will rent out potted trees to you. This is the church that we're talking about there we just saw that was done at Easter time with totally different colors as well. But it does create that effect of she has arrived, and not that a bride in Kansas City necessarily will have a trumpet fanfare when she gets out of the sight.
No paparazzi when you walk out?
Could happen.
Right.
But I think it's just staging that arrival to not be hectic. Sometimes brides will get dressed in a Sunday school room downstairs or whatever, or this is crowded and people are running out. She never has that bubble with her dad and with her. I think she should stay in kind of a bubble of bliss and tranquility that day. And I think that Princess Eugenia certainly did that.
And you probably want the photographer there to capture that moment, you and Dad in the back of the church?
That's a key thing of it, and getting out of the limousine is to always hire two photographers because he can't be in both places at one time. So you need one down at the end of the aisle photographing the processional as the grandmothers and mothers come in, and then you need to have the photographer also outdoors who's photographing the bride getting out of the limousine with her dad and with her bridesmaids and walking up. So that's always the importance of having what they call a second shooter.
Well, thank you so much, Michael, for telling us all these tips to really let the bride have her moment in the spotlight.
It's once in a lifetime, and I want it to be as magical and royal for her as we saw it was for the royal wedding this past Friday.
Oh,
absolutely.
Thank you, Michael.